What is going on, guys? This is Miasin. So I realized that a lot of hand shops exist, but we don't really care about any of them that aren't, the main ones like Ash, Veiler, Imperium, Nibiru, Ghost Mourner, Droll, maybe even Ghost Ogre sometimes, Ghost Bell, Ghost Sister. All those cards, they're always pretty much played, but some other hand shops, we just don't really look into them. We don't even try to figure out if they're worth playing or not, but today I decided to, discuss them and at least try to see if they're either good right now or might be good in the near future. But before going any further, you already know the drill. Friendly reminder to smash the like and subscribe button, and also huge shoutouts to my sponsors Inspire TCG as well as Dueling Guard, and shoutouts to myself for my coaching. Check it out, the link will always be in the description box below. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first hand shop I will be reviewing is kind of like one of the more interesting ones, which is Vados, the Eruption Dragon of Extinction. It is a TCG exclusive, so it's not like we can go off of the OCG to try to see if it was good for them or not. It's only been a thing since Phantom Nightmare. And if we are lucky, the Ashen archetype might be getting more support in Legacy of Destruction, which will make this card better. So honestly, I want to say just because of the fact that there's still room for additional support, cards like Vados and just the Ashen theme in general might just become a little better over time, because it was the same thing with Spiral and the Subterror, even though that's more of like a Guru control deck. It started off being really bad, and then eventually we just got a few cards that kind of broke everything in one shot. So maybe we're going to be getting like a Link 1 for Ashen that's going to glue everything together and finally make it a cohesive strategy that doesn't suck ass, because right now it's trash. This card's basically just unsearchable in its own archetype, and you basically have to physically hard draw this card in order to use this effect. It is still a decent hand shop in a way. It is a quick effect. During the main phase of this card is in your hand. Quick effect, you can target one card in the field zone, so either your own or your opponent's field spell, and then special summon it and then destroy that card. And then the other effects are just kind of irrelevant if you are now playing the Ashen deck. But if this card is sent from your opponent's field to the grave, you can destroy all monsters on the field. So it's not like your opponent is really trying to use this card as a link material. So you summoning this card on your opponent's field, it's not really a +1 for them whatsoever. If anything, it might even be an extender going first. Well, not really an extender, but a card that makes you beat Infinite Impermanence, since you are now giving a monster on your opponent's field. Yeah, and also Gamma and Delta or whatever, but those cards, nobody cares about them. Alright, so what are the field spells that you're really trying to hit with Vados? So obviously, we're in a Snake Eye format, so Divine Temple and Farking Island are seeing a lot of play, but I actually don't believe that hitting Divine Temple is really good, because Snake Eye Ash is still a one-card combo even without Divine Temple or Original, so it doesn't really do enough. So yeah, if you hit that, you're not really dealing with IP into SP and Princess Engrave. So in other words, Vados is just not good enough against this card specifically. And against Farking Island, it would have been insane if the card sent it from the field to the grave or banished it, but unfortunately it has to destroy it. And Farking Sanctuary is a card that can protect your Farking Island by destroying another fire monster instead. So because of that, I'm just reluctant to playing Vados to beat Farking Island. I think cards like Cosmic Cyclone can be much better there. But against cards like Pressure Planet Raisos or the Flunderies field spell, and even Runic Fountain, it can be much better. So against the Kashtira field spell, obviously it's kind of like a 1-for-1. If they don't hard draw the Unicorn, then they might just not have anything, but at the same time, they can also draw like Fenrir and Theosis and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a gamble. It takes care of like their one of per turn action, but again, they can just physically hard draw whatever, so it's not necessarily ideal. Whereas against Flunderies, if they don't draw specifically Robina, it can hurt. Also, they could just normal summon like an Eaglin after you give them the Vados, and then they can still tribute summon. But then it's also not really good for them, because then you can just blow up the whole board. So they don't really want to tribute summon over the Vados. That really does not work in their favor whatsoever. And the fact that you're giving a Vados to your opponent's field makes it so that even if your opponent can get to like double Empen without getting rid of the Vados, all you have to do, instead of trying to out 2 Empens, you out 1 Vados, you summon it in defense, it has 15, and then you run over, and then they lose their 2 Empens. So that's actually not too bad. So the fact that you can always out their board after you give them the Vados, and also you decrease the likelihood of them being able to go into their play by removing their field spell, is definitely really big. Now, against Runic, for example, you can hit Runic Fountain, but there's still the exact same issue with Farking Island. You have to destroy the Runic Fountain. It doesn't send, it doesn't banish, so you are playing really hard into Hugin, which I am not a big fan of. So the fact that your one of hand shop can get countered by like just insanely easily is just kind of like a turn off for me. I understand that in any situation where your opponent doesn't have access to Hugin, this card would be like insane at stopping their fountain when they're trying to draw 3 cards. It is pretty good. And also if their extra monster zone is clogged, then that's also game. Or if they're like under skill drain or something and they can't Yugen to protect, that's also really good. But again, like, are you really trying to rely on that? I don't know about that. And then again, we also have some more field spells, but that don't currently exist at the moment. So the Tenpai Dragon field spell, Brimming Sengen Manor, this card is terrifying to death. If you can hit this card with your Vados, then you're at least decreasing again the likelihood of them killing you, or straight up just decreasing the damage overall, because then their Trident Dragion won't be able to like double attack and still attack 3 times. It might attack 1 less time, but then again, even without Trident Dragion, they still have so much damage like at their disposal that it still hurts. But since you are removing Sengen Manor from the field, their Fire Dragon monsters are no longer like unaffected by your activated effects during main phase 1, so you can start like veiling them and stuff like that, and it will kind of get you started. Well, kind of get you not started, but I mean like again, it'll hurt them a little bit more. Against the Yubel field spell, same thing. I mean it's fine, but they can still like rely on Lone Fire. Well, I mean Samsara D Lotus. It's basically Lone Fire Blossom to play. And against the Gimmick Puppet field spell, it makes it so that they cannot FTK you, but they can still make 2 interruptions. Which, I mean, it's fine, but it's not like... Even then, like, they can make 2 interruptions, but you are giving them a non-Gimmick Puppet monster on their field, which means that their Chimera Doll can no longer special summon a monster from the hand, so it's really not that bad, honestly. But again, they don't have to go, like, super far to get into those 2 interruptions. So honestly, I am still a fan of Vados against Gimmick Puppet, for example. So if you're trying to cover, like, all those decks, at least there's like 1 card that does all of it. Now for cards like Artifact Lancia and Chaos Hunter, they're basically the exact same, so it's not really like I have to spend too much time covering one over the other. I do believe that Chaos Hunter, personally, I think it's a better card, depending on which, kind of deck you're playing. I think usually Chaos Hunter has more applications because it also prevents your opponent from banishing cards on your own turn. And another thing is that this card reads, your opponent cannot banish cards, whereas Artifact Lancia is neither player can banish cards for the rest of the turn. So if you are affected by Lancia yourself, you want to play cards like Chaos Hunter instead. And this card is also remarkable against Runic decks because every single Runic quickly spell, if they're not trying to special summon a Runic monster from the extra deck, they always have to banish cards. They can't resolve as much as possible. So under Chaos Hunter and Artifact Lancia, those would be illegal activations. So yeah, this card can be really good. They summon their Hugin, you summon the Chaos Hunter, you discard a card, and then they can't use any other card. They can't use like Freezing Curses to negate, can't use Runic Destruction to destroy it. Their only out would be like Gary to destroy the Chaos Hunter, and then they're no longer affected by it. But Lancia has the advantage of being proactive. You can use it on your opponent's draw phase or standby phase, and if you shotgun it, then you can protect yourself from Prosperity Extravagance, and you can also chain Lancia to Cosmic Cyclone or evenly. It doesn't really matter too much, so yeah, I do think it's really nice. And Chaos Hunter and Artifact Lancia are honestly turn-skipping cards against Ritual Beast. I can't see too many outs for them. I really can't. It's just, like, devastating. What can they do? Like, make a rank 4 pass? That's it, right? They can't, like, summon any, like, fusion monster because all of them are contact fused by banishing the monsters, I believe. So yeah, it just hurts like crazy, honestly. And against Infernoid, usually it would be good because I'm saying that because they're getting more support in Terminal Revenge, which is coming out before Nats, whatever. Before all the Natses, I believe. Natses, oh my god, yeah, wow, Yak sign. But yeah, it's less good against them because they're still playing like a Snake Eye deck, so yeah, it's just like, it could have been better, it could have been worse. And against Kashtira, again, same thing. Chaos Hunter is just insane, man. They can't go Fenrir Banish, but they can still go Shangri-La, affect a special summon, and then that triggers their field spell, which will destroy your Chaos Hunter. So keep that in mind, but again, Artifact Lancia wouldn't be good against them, because again, it only covers them on their turn, and you want to be able to Chaos Hunter so that they cannot Unicorn or Fenrir you, which is, again, insane. So in a world where Rysard was a thing, Chaos Hunter was particularly good, but now it's a little less good. Now, the next card is Engraver of the Mark. This card is janky as hell. It reads, whenever your opponent activates a card effect by declaring exactly one card name, you already know where this is going. Quick effect, you can send this card from the hand to the grave, declare one other card name. The card name your opponent declared becomes the card name declared by this effect, and then it has a completely irrelevant effect on the field. It's actually one of the most pathetic effects I've ever read. Once per turn quick effect, you can target one face-up card on the field, destroyed during the end phase of the next turn. This is not a good card, but yeah, it can cover like Lullaby and Crossout, that's it. So yeah, every engine card just doesn't really lose the Engraver of the Mark, but these kinds of random cards, for some reason, they I guess they lose out in Graver, but you might as well play Cypher Delta at this point. So yeah, this card is dog shit. Now for some more obscure handshaps again, we have Contact C. This card usually is good against decks that are just like archetype locked. Like if you can Contact C like a Math Mech deck, it hurts a lot. They don't really play any generic Link 2 monsters, but Math Mech doesn't exist anymore because Circular is banned. This card can also hurt Gimmick Puppet really, really bad. They can't play at all, actually. They literally have to pass turn, and I don't even know if they can out it over time. They have to tribute summon on top because they cannot summon anything whatsoever under Contact C. Like, literally, fuck all. They cannot go into generic monsters because they're always locked under Gimmick Puppet monsters, from the extra deck at least. So yeah, it hurts like crazy. So yeah, if Gimmick Puppet gains a lot in popularity, there's just so many cards that can counter it. It's ridiculous. Like, almost every single handshap I can think of is game against Gimmick Puppet, but for some reason people want to complain and say, oh yeah, this card makes all their monsters unaffected by card effects, blah 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 blah. Yeah, it makes like the popular ones like garbage, like Valor Imperium, but those, I mean Valor Mourner, but those cards were never good in the first place, right? No, we're trying to be spicy and creative. We're trying to play the weird cards. But yeah, this card is not nice, honestly. If I were you, I'd look into buying 3 copies of this card because it's super cheap and it can always get better over time. Anyways, the next one is like a really sketch one. It's Sneaky C. Whenever your opponent special summons a monster, except during the damage check, you can special summon this card from your hand in face down. And if you do during the end phase of this turn, change it to face up defense. And then when it is flipped face up during the end phase, destroy all special summon monsters on the field. This card is yet again really good against any deck that is just locked under not being able to summon generically from the extra deck. Because if they can't go into an SP Little Knight to banish this card, you're flipping this card and then you're destroying everything. Obviously, it can't get negated, so if your opponent can negate that, then yeah, this card basically ends up doing nothing. You know, it's still a card that can be really annoying. I mean, you might consider playing this card maybe potentially against, like, I don't know, Kashtira, maybe. They summon Unicorn and then Fenrir, whatever. You summon this in face down defense. Their Fenrir can't banish because it's face down, and then end phase you flip it face up. They can go into Shangri-La, which protects itself, obviously, but next one is even worse, no material. If your opponent's special summons a monster is well controlled, no cards. So in other words, this card is only good going second. You can discard this card, then target one face-up monster opponent controls. It can be used as a material for anything. So obviously the effect itself can be really good in theory, but it's just too many requirements for no reason. It's only when your opponent special summons a monster, and you have to target that monster very specifically, while you control absolutely nothing. So yeah, I've seen better. I am not a fan whatsoever. As Skullmeister, this card is basically just another kind of like an Ash / Bell / Bestial DD Crow S card, kind of, in a way. It was good against Unchained, but it wasn't, like, insane. So yeah, this card's whatever. I mean, it's a level 4 Dark monster, so I guess it might matter for you. It's also a Fiend monster. I don't think that this changes anything, really. And it is not once per turn, but it does negate the effect of the monster that you're trying to negate. It doesn't negate the activation. So in other words, this card cannot be used during the damage step. Keep that into consideration. And then we've got the Heavenly Zephyr Miradora. This card is, again, another really sketchy-ass card. It does have some applications, but it's way too niche. The activation and effect of this card's effects cannot be negated. If your opponent special summons a monsters with 2000 or more attack from the extra deck, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned from the hand, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls that was special summoned from the extra deck. Neither player can activate that monster's effect while this monster is face-up on the field. This also affects, yet again, monsters that are unaffected by card effects because it targets the player, not the monster. Nobody really cares. Can't be negated either, so like your opponent could summon like a monster that has infinite negates with infinite attack. Miradora prevents it from activating its effect, but only while it's face up on the field. So if your opponent goes like SP banish your Miradora, then you're doing nothing. That's my issue. It doesn't linger. It's very easy to deal with. So it's a cute card, and it's also a dragon monster that makes if that's relevant for you, you can make like Heretic Seal or Romulus, whatever the hell you want to do. And it's a level 7, so you can normal summon a hand trap and make Baron, but yeah, it's just not really ideal. It's decent if your opponent goes into like an Appaloosa or Baron or a Warlord Savage, but apart from that, it just, again, like I said, a little too easy to deal with, and this card's impact is way too low. It's a 1-for-1 when other cards are just a little better. But in a world where in a world where there's like a meta deck that just like is Protect the Castle deck, that just summons like one big monster that's like invincible, this card could be really good. Anyways, Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. This card is a little too gimmicky, and it's very bad in a format where extra decks are super toolboxy, and there's like 15 one-ofs. But if people are relying very specifically on one card, Ghost Reaper is just insane. So yeah, this card is never in the middle. It's never like decent. It's either like complete trash or insanely overpowered, max C level kind of card. And I haven't seen Ghost Reaper be unfair since like, I don't know, BA format where you were hitting Dante's and people were losing the game because they couldn't grind in the mirror match. So yeah, I mean, it's also, like, it was good at one point against Spiral. You hit their double Helix, and then they're playing, like, the pre-broken Spiral deck. So obviously in a mirror match, it's not really good. And then finally, we've got Typhoon, which I actually appreciate a lot. I think this card can be played over Cosmic as the back row removal of choice in your deck. It has some nice applications. Even against Pure Snake Eyes, it's not too bad. They activate Divine Temple, plays the Flamberge, and then they have IP Masquerena. On your opponent's end phase, you can just Typhoon. And it's not like they can chain the Flamberge because that is on the opponent's turn only. So yeah, Typhoon is not too bad. And yeah, I mean, it's not a card that can be hit by Crossout either because nobody plays Typhoon. And it can hit some other decks as well. It's one of the very few cards that also beats Solemn Judgment because, again, you're just going to use it on your opponent's end phase. So against Centurion, it's not too bad. I do like it. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me know your thoughts about these cards in the comment section below. And I will see you guys very, very soon. Peace.